So when Mark Zuckerberg announced this, what was your first thought?
My first thought was that it is great to see Facebook embracing these kind of privacy and security fundamentals. And it's great to announce a plan like that, but implementing a plan like that is another thing entirely.
How so?
Secure messaging is really hard to get right, both at the technical level and at the policy level. So there's all sorts of places in Mark Zuckerberg's very long announcement, very detailed announcement, where the company could fall into a lot of different traps that could go very wrong for users.
What kind of traps?
So a few that really stand out in particular, the announcement focuses a lot on ephemeral messaging. That means your message isn't going to stick around indefinitely.
Just like Snapchat.
Exactly. Snapchat features are really where the action is, and the company knows that. But ephemeral can mean a lot of different things. You know, how quickly does it disappear? Does it disappear only on your device? Is it wiped from Facebook's servers? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered to manage user expectations around a really important security and privacy feature.
Now, Jitendra, Nomura likes what it's seeing in general, but what do these changes, and we don't know exactly how they're going to be implemented, as Jenny points out, what do they mean for Facebook's bottom line?
So one underlying implication over here is they could bring together over 1.5 billion on WhatsApp people, and then you have Messenger coming to Instagram. So that could help Instagram's growth story. It could also, because stories sort of flows through different platforms across Facebook. So you could see an increased ad inventory as well. So what it sets them up for 2020, if you look at the expectations, the revenue growth is expected to be about 21%. That's largely in line with what the mobile advertising growth is expected to be.
But
so if they can gain market share,
less data to target ads based on?
Yeah, so it's actually a dance of price and volume. The data targeting ability in the end is going to be a relative strength, not an absolute strength. And on a relative basis, Facebook will still be leading. But this year is risky because this transition could come at a lower price point for the ads that they're going with stories. But what it does set them up for is market share gains in 2020. If they do so, then they'll beat expectations.
Meantime, Jenny, part of this is in preparation for Zuckerberg's plan to merge the messaging infrastructure behind Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram, which you call What's to Messenger, which sounds very foreboding. As that proceeds, what are some mistakes that Facebook could easily make here?
Sure, yes, the impending apocalypse of What's to Messenger. I think two big mistakes that loom large in my mind that I'm looking out for are exactly how encryption is presented to users and whether or not backups are encrypted. So right now, Facebook Messenger has an end-to-end encrypted option, but it's not on by default, it's optional, it's called secret messaging, and so that can be really confusing to users, it's unclear what they're using, and defaults are king, so it's unclear whether a lot of users are even going to take advantage of that end-to-end encryption.
And what about WhatsApp? Those messages are encrypted supposedly end-to-end. Yes. Can we trust that? Yeah, so WhatsApp messages are encrypted end-to-end, best-in-breed end-to-end encryption, but a big chink in the armor there is an existing feature called automatic backups. You might get a question when you first create WhatsApp, or every once in a while pinging you, asking you, how often do you want us to back up our messages, and your messages? And what that does is it stores an unencrypted copy of your messages on Apple's or Google's servers, depending on what kind of phone you're using. So for users who rely on end-to-end encryption, that completely undermines that protection. Now those messages are sitting around unencrypted, available to Apple or Google, available to law enforcement requests and to leaks. So how backups are executed is a big question going forward. Now, investors, Jitendra, have been waiting a long time to see how monetization would play out on Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. Does this mean they're going to have to wait even longer?
On certain aspects, like she mentioned the complexities over here that they have to go through. Certain countries also have issues with it, with encryption. So those are the hurdles also they have to put forth. So we feel like this year and next year it's going to be focused on stories, which they can pull off within their current construct. But this idea of going after payments, going after e-commerce, that will require these issues to be resolved first. And so it's the timeline that we feel those aspects will take longer, but what's in their wheelhouse, which is stories, which is advertising, that they can execute on.
Now, given, Jenny, that Facebook has compromised user trust and privacy many, many times, and Facebook has admitted to this and apologized for it many, many times, can we trust that
Facebook really will be more private if they make these changes, even though Facebook itself is still going to have this information?
I think time will tell. And you make a really good point that Facebook is still going to have access to this information. Even if all of your messages are end-to-end encrypted, Facebook can still see the metadata. That's who is talking to each other, when they're talking, even where they are. And that still tells a very detailed story. So to have all of those communications under one roof, under a roof that does not have a history of responsible stewardship of security and privacy features, that is definitely concerning.
Are you or EFF lobbying Facebook right now as they work through these changes, or do you have conversations ongoing with the company and employees about how they're going to implement this stuff?
We are always yelling at Facebook to do better by security and privacy. In particular right now, in a campaign called Fix It Already, we're asking specifically for different protections on WhatsApp and on Facebook about kind of user control and choice, about phone number privacy. You know, we don't have to look far to find evidence that phone numbers are not safe on Facebook, that they're not left where you put them. So Facebook has already kind of messed that up with two-factor authentication, another security feature, and it's very important that that is cleared up and that those safeguards are put in place before we can trust that Facebook is going to do the right thing with merged messengers.
And meantime, Jitendra, Facebook actually had a strong earnings report last quarter. What are we expecting this quarter, aside from a lot of questions from analysts about how all of this will work?
Yeah, pricing is going to be the biggest concern. So last quarter, you saw a lot of questions about pricing because as they transition to stories, the inventory opens up, the ad volume opens up, which helps them, but at a much lower pricing because they still have to prove the ROI to advertisers. Moving away from newsfeed is not a small thing. So this year is going to be a transition year, and we see risks in pricing continue to be the topic.